Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lugal's world. We have my most favorite astrologer in the entire world. He is the initiator, part of the initiation of my initiation. He is He's the resistance of astrologers, and book him now on Olympus Astrology and use my name, Lugal, so I can get tons of free astrology from your doing that because it's so
Hell yeah.
great. So today we're going to be talking about the solar flares, Aleister Crowley, and CERN. We were going to talk about Mr. Rogers, but we decided to get a little darker. So welcome everyone.
Hell
So
yeah.
tell us about these things, Julian.
Shall we start with the aurora, the solar flares
Yes,
in the aurora? That's
indeed.
pretty cool one. I don't have that many thoughts about it. The basic kind of astrological theory is that whatever's happening in the sky, look at the color and the planet associated with the color of whatever event it is. That's kind of what it's signifying. So if
I
it's
saw it pink in the above my house the other day. So it's like crown chakra, or do you mean it's like,
wow.
how do you see that?
Yeah, pink and purple. Well, sort of that pink and purple. Purple is like a color of awakening, and pink is a color of obviously love and brotherhood. But then astrologically, like it's probably associated with, have to be linked with Venus or Mars, or maybe a mixture of Venus and Mars, because it's kind of a deeper red. Purple and pink is like a deeper red, I think. God, I am not good at colors, but the sort of basic colors. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm not 100% sure. Venus is usually she's kind of yellow. Mars obviously is red. Mercury is all kinds of different colors. Jupiter is white, kind of pale white, or maybe even Jupiter is paleo. This is the difficulty with the sort of astrological colors, is the Greek colors, which is kind of where we get our system of astrology from, are completely, their way of looking and thinking about colors is completely different from
Didn't they not
us.
have blue?
Yeah, they didn't have any of the colors that we have, because they didn't think about it as, red, blue, green. They thought of it as like shiny, deep, smoky, they had different kind of words
Fascinating.
for it. Yeah, so like the description of Saturn could be translated as smoky, or like silver gray. So dark black colors, darker colors are linked with Saturn. Lighter colors are linked with Jupiter. Yeah, I actually need to double check the whole planetary colors business. But anyway, do I have Ptolemy here? Ptolemy talks about it. But so there's a lot of like, it's very green and purple. Actually, I think Venus is green. Yes, I think Venus is green. That's her color. Yeah, so looks very Venusian anyway. Venus and Mars, some combination of Venus and Mars, and obviously, such an enormous change in the atmosphere. Like thinking of it from the ancient point of view is signifying something enormous, some huge change that's coming
Wow.
through. Yeah,
I really started to go into the spirit realm like super, super intensely, like seeing it with my own eyes, which is actually
wow.
becoming more and more common for me, which is cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah. If you think about it as an ancient astrologer who was part of this old tradition of watching the sky every night you go out, you watch the stars, every little change you're recording in your diary. Mars was more orange than red today, and you write that down. Venus was dimmer than yesterday. Venus was extraordinarily bright today. All of those details are being recorded. And then you go out one night and the whole sky is green. That's from that kind of perspective, that's an insane, well, interaction from the divine, basically, is really what it is. And we kind of mentalize it as magnetic winds or whatever, but actually, just from a purely philosophical point of view, it's a massive omen.
I had two people, and speaking of my initiation and regarding the sky, there was a Ahrimanic, a satanic person that was awakened with me at the same exact time, and a Luciferic person, like in the 3D. And I talked to, and they were like super possessed by like, they were like, while they were possessed, like not really human. And
Mm.
I would go, and after I'd done talking to them on the phone, there would be all these like weird screams in the background. And then we went outside, and like the whole sky is like red. And I've never seen it
Wow.
like that. And so what you're saying really resonates, that like the sky is, people need to pay attention to, their environment. There's so much amazing like omens and stuff that we can gain, including the stars.
Yes. Yep, absolutely, yes. Yeah, so either way, I think it's signifying a massive turning point for the human collective. I remember a friend of mine told me like years ago, she said that apparently, I have no idea where she got this from. I don't think it's, truly astrological. I think it was more of an intuitive thing for her. And she was saying that like the dark age in the Vedic dark age at least, kind of officially ends in 2024, and that was really significant. So the fact that we're seeing these lights now, I don't think is a coincidence. Something big is coming.
What reasoning do they use to say it's 2024?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It's
Steiner and
just
Triuktishwar said it was basically the birth of electricity, marked the
Mhm.
the end, which
Mhm.
makes sense with like Aquarius and the.
There's so many different things, and I mean, astrologically, like I've been telling people for a long time, it's not for another 300 years, right? That actual shift. But I think she was coming from a more intuitive place, a more kind of semi-psychic place, and I could feel it that yeah, what she was saying had truth in it. It wasn't like it wasn't bullshit. Basically, it may not be lined up with the actual astrology, which is really important, but I think, I mean, looking at the sky right now, right, she clearly had something right. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely huge.
Yep. Yeah. And it would be most important for the lands where it's visible, which would be America and Europe and all that the northern, and even I think even in the south of Australia, people are seeing it here. I obviously can't see it because I'm tropical in a tropical latitude, so sadly I can't see it. But yeah, all the lands that are where it's visible, that's where it's affecting. Shall we dive into our crazy rabbit hole of CERN and
So
Aleister Crowley?
excited. Everyone get ready. Get your
Uh,
tinfoil on your head. Get ready.
Yep. All right. So I wanted to start with CERN, which the date that we have for that is September the 10th, 2008 in
I'm kind of
Geneva.
concerned.
All right. I'm going to end the call right now. I'll see you in the next one, bud. Thanks for that. No, I'm joking. All right. So this I wasn't expecting a huge amount, but actually now that I think about it, obviously we know these elites are using astrology all the time, and anybody who knows what they're talking about astrologically, they can see that. So as soon as I loaded up this chart, boom, I know, okay, this is a chart that another astrologer has made. So this launch date was deliberate. It was made by another astrologer, by an astrologer. This is not a chart where they just went, yeah, we'll just launch it whenever and whatever. It's not a random chart. This is something that was planned. And we can see that primarily because of this conjunction of Jupiter and the moon at the bottom of the chart in a trine with the sun. And so I know I don't want to get too like heady about it, but this Jupiter moon conjunction is extremely fortunate. It's about fame and influence and success and health and long life and all kinds of good things.
You said the moon in ancient astrology rules like the person's fortune, right?
Yes, exactly right. Yep. So then Jupiter being with the moon gives them very lucky fortune. So that in and of itself is kind of interesting. I was almost kind of thinking in my head maybe that the whole CERN launch thing was an orgy
Wow.
because look what's rising. Venus, Mars, and Mercury all in the same degree pretty much of Virgo. And when Venus, Mars, and Mercury come together, it's about sexual exploration. That's the theme. It can make people, it can be a marker of somebody who's a homosexual when they have Venus, Mars, and Mercury all together, or just somebody who, through their own character or through destiny, ends up in sexually strange situations. Let's put it that way. So that's kind of weird. And then the other thing is the star right here on the ascendant, like exactly on the ascendant there is the star Spica. So that's not a coincidence either, because Spica is a star of esoteric knowledge, occult knowledge, hidden sort of spiritual research. Astrology is linked with Spica. So they were up to some weird shit with this CERN thing. There's no doubt about it. Really weird stuff here.
I really want to know if the chart is naughty or nice.
It's kind of, I would say it's kind of neutral. It's not super strongly spiritual. Well, there is sort of, we could call it magical influences, but they're not moral. They're not spiritual influences necessarily. And it's a very, like if this was the chart of a person, it's actually with the invisible Mars, it's kind of sexual. So there's this, it's sort of morally neutral, erring towards very sexual, which is kind of strange. So there's
How many
definitely
sacred zones do they have activated?
none. There's none. No sacred zones here at all.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
How
So,
rare
I
are
mean,
sacred zones in general?
they're actually not that well. I guess I have a skewed point of view because a lot of my clients
People
obviously
are coming
into
to very
spirituality.
spiritual.
Yeah, so I do see a lot of sacred zones in my practice. But when it comes to more normal people, they're not as rare as you would think. Let's put it that way. They're not as rare as you would think.
You'll probably hate this idea, but it might be fun if you went like randomly on the street and was like, "Who wants an astrology?" And you're like this and this and that, and you had it
Yep.
on your phone and just like, oh, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, astrology for research. That'd be pretty interesting. Random sample size. Yeah, could be a cool experiment to do one day. So, maybe this first running of CERN or whatever the hell CERN really is was just maybe they were just trying to make the frogs gay.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it looks like. That's what this chart looks like. It's a weird one. It's a super weird one. But we can definitely tell that it was.
So
This is a chart.
it's not the end of the world like people are fearing,
No,
correct?
no, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. It just looks like some dumb sex party that they wanted to last for a long time. Like that's kind of what it looks like to me. Yeah, weird, really weird chart actually for a research kind of institution, but clear, but also very clearly chosen. So they chose this moment for some reason. The influences here, somehow they wanted this Venus, Mars, Mercury influence. Very weird. Nothing really too drastic there, but still interesting nevertheless to look at. Yeah, shall we switch over to Mr. Crowley?
Yes, please.
So his is interesting, and I was telling you before, like it's actually linked with the CERN chart, which is kind of weird, because the rising sign of CERN was on Speaker, this star here. The rising degree was on Speaker, and you can see Aleister Crowley has lots of things around Speaker as well. Sun, Venus, the IC, lots of weird stuff around Speaker. So there's somehow, I mean, it makes sense that they're linked because Speaker is a star of occult knowledge. So they're both sort of, one's a person, one's a project, but both charts are geared towards this occult research. Crowley's chart is kind of weird, actually. I'm not as impressed as I expected. I expected to see some like really weird stuff and super wacky sacred zones, a bit like Karl Marx.
Is Cody Smith McPhee on the similar level, or is Crowley more interesting in his chart? I'm curious.
I don't remember anything about Cody Smith McPhee's chart, honestly, so can't answer that one, I'm afraid. Well, just because Crowley's kind of a renowned black magician, so we would expect some pretty clear omens of that in the chart, and they are here, but they're not as kind of dramatic as I expected.
How many like anti-sacred zones does he have? I'm curious.
Well, yeah,
How
well,
many
that's the thing.
positive and negative sacred zones does he have?
Yes, that would be the right way to say it. He actually doesn't have any. He just has a couple of
For
spiritual
those who don't
stars.
know about sacred zones, can you talk about them for a little bit?
Yeah, so sacred zones are parts of the sky that have a clear spiritual influence of a certain type. So when you have powerful places in one of those zones, it tells us about the level of evolution of your soul, we could say. So like if you have a bit really bright, powerful Jupiter in the horns of Taurus, which is one of the sacred zones, then it shows that you are somebody who has done a lot of spiritual work in past lives in the temple of Isis on the path of divine love. However, if you have maybe a big bad Saturn or big bad Mars in the horns of Taurus, then it shows that you've done a lot of sins against the temple of Isis. And that's generally holds very, very true as far as the astrology goes. So yeah, in this case, he doesn't really have any. There's the moon a little bit in the sacred zone of Aquarius here, kind of. But what's more interesting is Mars and Saturn in this parallel here over the setting horizon in the horns of Capricorn. Let's change this up a little bit. Zoom in on it. Give you guys a closer look. So here's Capricorn. There's the horns of the goat. Mars is down here. Saturn is up here, and they're kind of.
And definitely also talk about his drug use if possible. I think. Is there anything indicating drug use?
Yeah, definitely.
That's I think how he died was from like the opium.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, the horns of Capricorn is it's a magical zone. It's not a spiritual zone, it's a magical zone. So people with stuff in the horns, they will be very sexual because the horns of Pan, the horns of Capricorn, who represents the god Pan, he's the god of sex. He's the god of animal sex. So people with the horns of Capricorn, they have a stronger sex drive or instinctive urges like that. And this
His
parallel, but
Saturn's
also
in the genitals of something, right? Is that
it's in
is
the
that what I'm saying?
tail, but yes, you could say maybe genitals or something. Yeah, but technically, it's called the tail of Capricorn up there.
Oh, okay.
But this kind of parallel in the horns. So the horns of Capricorn, yes, it's sexual. It's also very mystical, and it can be linked with black magic. They can either become a black magician or a white magician. One way or another, they have a lot of power in the invisible world, and the way that they use it is really important. And obviously, because we have Saturn and Mars, the two evil planets, sitting in the horns of Capricorn, this guy from birth, was most likely to end up as a black magician. So, yeah, and that also is an indicator of addictions and things, because Pan is not just about sex, he's about kind of astral entities.
And this is
links.
the orange line is the thing that's the indicator you're saying?
Yes,
The green one.
the orange line is where the sun sets. So when the sun is on this orange line, it's at sunset. And on that orange line, which of course is a very powerful part of the chart, you have these horns. So they've got this big influence. And then Saturn and Mars there as well.
Do you ever see this with your clients?
Yes. Yes.
Often.
I mean, I have something similar in my chart with my moon. It's fairly frequent. And the message is just, so of course, because we're not just one part of our chart, like we are our whole chart. And Aleister Crowley's got a lot of darkness in his chart. That's why he ended up the way he did. Somebody may have bad planets in this area, but the rest of their chart has a lot of sacred zones activated and positive spiritual influences. So they're able to transform their kind of power in the invisible world into light. So that's the advice, is to watch out not to use your powers for evil, basically.
Don't use them to get your ex back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely don't do that.
These people doing that. Stop it. Naughty.
And then down here, right at the bottom of the chart, of course, we have the sun, we have Spica, we have the invisible Venus, invisible Jupiter, and invisible Mercury. Well, the invisible Mercury doesn't really matter, but so we have Mars and Saturn, very strong in a magical area, the two bad planets, and Jupiter and Venus, the two good planets, are very weak. They're invisible. They're not. They're dead. Basically, is what that means. So this is a chart with a lot of darkness, where the darkness is kind of creeping in, and there's not a lot of light to combat it. So all this down here, the invisible Venus is about greed and lust. And the invisible Jupiter is also about greed and the desire for power, an unhealthy desire for power. So all of those being there, Mars and Saturn in the horns of Capricorn, you know what I mean? We're looking at a very dark kind of chart with a lot of we could call them like negative spiritual influences, not necessarily negative influences in the material sense. These aren't great materially, but they can also be very successful materially. But they're primarily negative in the spiritual sense.
What's his most powerful fixed star?
Most powerful star would be Spica. This Hand of the Virgin down here. This occult sciences star.
Fascinating. What is his second most and third most?
He doesn't actually have. Oh, he's got Procyon here, the little dog, small dog on the ascendant, or well, on the horizon there, rising. So very strong. Procyon is a star,
right? Yeah, 0, right?
Pretty much 0 degrees. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So Procyon is a star.
I have it like 5 or 6 degrees, I think.
Yeah, and Procyon is a star of war. It is also of intellectual strength, intellectual capabilities. But yeah, it's also about kind of conflict and being a bit of an asshole, basically. Being a bit full on, being very full on and extreme. Yeah. He was also born in an eclipse cycle. So he was born right before a lunar eclipse. Let's see if it was visible in Birmingham. He was born. There we go. 2 days. Yep, there you go. There's the full moon. So the full moon lunar eclipse happened right over Birmingham. 2 days after Aleister Crowley was born.
Is it still affected even though it's 2 days?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything, that's a massive influence. Massive influence. What matters the most is whether or not it's visible in the place, in that location. So, and it was right, this eclipse was right at the very end of Pisces. You can see that there. So the very last degree of the whole zodiac. So that's one of the major boiling points where lots of very intense and extreme things can happen. So it's no doubt this was a very intense life, very, very intense life with a lot of karma to pay and a lot of dark influences gnawing at his heels.
Oh, wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
do we have time for one more random person?
yeah, I think so. Yes. Who do you want to discuss?
I'm kind of fascinated because I'd never heard of her, but she seemed very like volatile, and I wanted to see why she's so volatile. Sinead O'Connor, which is December 8th, 1966, 7:37 a.m., Dublin, Ireland. Yeah, her child committed suicide. She was beaten as a child. Her mother died when she was young, and just really like people hated her so much for like speaking against the child abuse in the Catholic Church. So I'm really fascinated. I want to see her
Give me the
chart
birth
because she's
details
like the
again. Start
most
with the
beautiful
year.
singer. One of the
What
most
year was
beautiful
it?
singers possible. I just got an ad that I have to wade through one moment. It is 7:37 a.m.
No, start with the year. Start with the
December
year.
8th. Oh, sorry, 1966.
1966. Yep. Month.
December 8th.
8th. Yep.
7:37 a.m.
7:37 a.m.
Dublin, Ireland. She
Brooklyn.
died 2023 after her son committed suicide.
Gotcha. Gosh. Let me see if I've got Dublin in here.
She's probably got. I'm guessing she has like a Picasso chart, like or something like horrible aspects, but then like one fixed star that like. Let's see if I'm right.
Yes, that probably makes sense. Here we go. I've got Dublin. Dublin. Oh, come on. No, sorry. My software's not having it. Sometimes it does this with certain city places. They just glitches out and won't load it. So it just crashed. 1966, December the 8th, at 7:37 in Ireland. I'm gonna have to add the city back in. Ireland, Dublin. Need to do this all manually, so we'll be here for a few minutes.
Guys, please go book Julian. Go support what he does, the Astrology Daddy. Please go and show him some love.
Thank you, boss.
And if you use Lugal, my name, you'll get a discount. 3 days after Julian gave me a reading, I literally had my initiation into the spirit world. Like, he's the real deal.
That was pretty amazing. Pretty extreme example. That's
That it
sure.
never
Okay, I think it's working.
to you with a client.
Yeah, it has. People tell me all the time they just feel like the veil is really thin right after a reading. So yeah. All right. Okay. Oh wow. Yeah, terrible. So she has the worst aspect in astrology. She's got the worst aspect in astrology, along with some
How does this rank of
extremely.
all the charts you've seen? Is this like from 1 to 10? Where is this rank?
So there's different kinds of charts in astrology. We talk about the 4 kinds: the comedy, tragic comedy, the tragedy, and the heroic.
Wow.
And you can have mixtures of them, and usually just one. This is a mixture of heroica and tragedy.
Wow.
So
She's very
the
Joan of
two,
Arc energy sometimes.
yeah, the two really extreme, chart types. So the tragedy is lots of bad things always happen. They have big ambitions. They may even reach their big ambitions, but then they fall from grace and there's a big moral lesson. The heroica is just that they conquer everything. They achieve all their goals, all their ambitions. They reap their good karma. They rule the world, they reach their peak basically without any holdbacks. This is a mixture between both, which makes sense, right? And you can see on the ascendant here, the sun and the morning star. The morning star Mercury is what makes people artists, very artistically talented, and that part of her fame would be linked with that. She has Aldebaran right there on the descendant, right on the setting horizon. So that's also what makes her famous. And this powerful trine from Jupiter to the sun with Antares on the ascendant. So two royal stars, Antares and Aldebaran, a double conjunction with Antares, sun and ascendant. I don't expect everybody to really understand this. This is just for those who are ready. And then that trine from Jupiter topping it all off, making this a chart of extreme fame. However, the worst aspect in astrology, which is the Saturn-Mars opposition, is right there. Pretty much in the most powerful place it could be, on the MC and the IC. Not too tight, actually. How deep is that? So 9 degrees. 9 degrees. Take the parallel. Yeah, it's about 8 or 9 degrees Saturn-Mars opposition. But whenever that opposition is in angles like this and there's not much protecting it, yes, it makes kidnapping, extreme violence in the childhood, oh my God, accidents, losses, deaths, swindling. It makes sexual abuse. It makes rape. Every bad thing comes with it, basically. So that's why we're seeing that.
Is there a child's death by suicide in there too? What would be the thing that would?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the Saturn-Mars opposition is in the 5th house here, so that would be the child. So that would make sense. Maybe the moon's kind of involved as well, but this is getting very subtle. That's a very subtle kind of astrology.
What about sacred zones, negative, positive?
Yeah, lots of really good sacred zones. Actually, well, some good, some bad. She also has Speaker there, Star of Spirituality with the moon. Crown of Scorpio, look at that. Big
I'm
crown
wondering
of
why
Scorpio.
she converted to Islam. She was very Christian and she's very into the monotheistic religions. She changed her name to an Islamic name and everything. So I'm wondering, is that the
Yep, it would be the crown of Scorpio, probably. Yeah, the strong will.
Did you say Scorpio is like fundamentalist religions?
It can manifest as that, yes, because it's about willpower. It's about dedication to one thing. Not always. It's usually about Buddhism and meditation and fasting.
Is it Saturn more the fundamentalist religion, or what
Yes.
energy would you? Okay.
Saturn, yes. Saturn would be the fundamentalist religion, yeah, because he's based on fear and control and power. Saturn's desire is power, which is really what the fundamental religions are about, actually.
Yeah, authority, power. Like it says in the Kali Yuga.
Yes.
Worship authority.
Yep, exactly.
What negative?
But you can see, you can also see. Look, there's another sacred zone, the one of Aquarius, with her Saturn there, the nighttime Saturn. So that's not.
By the way, you could make a mini course on sacred zones. That'd be so nice.
Great idea. That's a great idea. Yep.
I'd definitely buy that up. Like when I have money. So.
That one's coming up, my brother. I will be sure to do that one very soon. Yes, so I'll keep that affordable. Yes.
What's the negative sacred zone of hers?
This one that I'm telling you right now.
Oh, sorry.
This Waters of Aquarius with Saturn there. This indicates that she's given inspiration from the invisible world, but it's coming from the energies of Saturn, which is about. As I've said before,
doesn't Steiner have that in the chart that we did on Steiner, or?
No, he had something else. He was a weird one. He wasn't quite the same as this. He did have a big bad Saturn, but it wasn't necessarily in a sacred zone. I can't remember. We would have to compare the two. But anyway, the the nighttime Saturn in the sacred zone of Aquarius is about working out of fear, wanting to control things, wanting power. Or even the invisible Saturn is about like suspicion and fear and hatred of people.
They all called her like really hateful for a season. She got hated by everyone for like ripping up the Pope's picture, and she was like super like, I think Frank Sinatra like was like called her a bitch and like TV.
Oh man, crazy. But yeah, so that's a kind of an example there. This is similar to what Karl Marx had, actually. Karl Marx had the nighttime Saturn in the sacred zone of Aquarius. Obviously, Marx's thing was much worse. His is much darker, but it's a good example that he was given these inspirations, these ingenious inspirations, but they came from hell, not from heaven. So it wasn't for the good of humanity. It was for the detriment.
So Do you have any just in closing, do you have any spiritual advice for the viewers and just with this season? Because I know you got the spiritualities.
Yeah, this is a great time. Actually, we're going through a few weeks where the Pleiades are going to be really, really activated. So it's a time where we can develop we can be really initiated into new magical ideas, new occult schools, or it's a big time of spiritual awakening, spiritual advancement and
I
development.
literally just got a spiritual mentor, and the last time I had one was like 5-6 years ago. So like this is huge.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there you go. It is a time to be a little bit careful about our desire for power or our lust because of the invisible planets at the moment. So we need to be a little careful with that. But primarily, it's a really good time to uncover initiatic secrets, to be interested in reading spiritual books, to be watching videos like this. I myself, the way it's manifested for me already is I've been studying the destiny cards, which is a really, really simple, really simple system of fortune telling. Maybe we can do a video on it next time. We can do a reading for you
Oh
through
yes,
the destiny
please.
cards. Yeah, how sick would that be? Because it's so like you can
I would
learn
have
it in
never
2
thought you
hours.
would get into cards. This is so
Well,
exciting.
it's not that's the thing. It's not about doing cards. It's just it's basically astrology, but through a different lens. And it's much simpler than like astrology takes you years to learn. This takes you maybe 1 or 2 hours. It's so easy. And yeah, I've been learning that whole new kind of style of fortune telling. We'll definitely do that in the next video for you. I'm keen to see what's in the cards for you, literally. Yep.
Everyone, Olympus Astrology, go click the link, make it happen.
Amen. God bless you, my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Awesome. Sagana Goa, peace. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Namah Shivaya. Christ's light be with you. And yeah, peace, everyone.
Amen. God bless you.